You are listening to The Vocal Technologist. Spoken tech for your ears.
For decades, there was this unspoken rule in the tech industry. If you wanted to build a serious software company, you had to pack up your entire life and move exactly to where the software engineers were.
Right, you had to be in the bubble.
Yeah, you had to literally breathe the same air as the people writing the code. But here is a genuinely controversial opinion to start us off. Because artificial intelligence is completely commoditizing the actual writing of code, Silicon Valley might soon lose its status as the absolute center of the tech industry.
Which is a massive claim, I know.
It is, but we are looking at this huge geographical and philosophical shift. Companies are going to start relocating away from the builders, and they'll move directly to where the actual buyers are.
And that shifts the entire power dynamic of how a business is constructed. I mean, when the barrier to entry was the code itself, you basically worshiped the coders, right? You gathered around them. But when that barrier dissolves, the bottleneck moves entirely.
And we have got this massive stack of strategy memos and founder retrospectives sitting on the desk, and they're all pointing to this terrifying but honestly fascinating conclusion. Think of me as your vocal technologist, that tech-savvy mate who wants to help you look under the hood of building a company in an environment where the old rules are just completely breaking down.
They really are breaking down.
So we are going to pull apart the actual mechanics of modern strategy today. We want to figure out how you, as a founder or a builder, actually need to adapt when the ground is just shifting underneath you.
And we will ignore the usual clutter out there and focus purely on the structural changes. We really need to look at what actually protects a business when software becomes incredibly cheap.
Right.
We will explore how internal management is fracturing and how reaching your customer has just fundamentally changed.
So let's get into it. If moving to Silicon Valley is no longer the defensive moat it used to be, what actually is? Because, I mean, code used to be this impenetrable fortress. You spent millions of dollars and thousands of hours stacking these bricks of code to build this massive wall around your business.
Yeah, the code base was the asset.
Exactly. But looking at these memos we are unpacking, it seems like code is just cheap wallpaper now.
That is exactly what it is. The margins on pure software businesses are compressing rapidly. I mean, when artificial intelligence can just commoditize the production of code, the value of just having functional software plummets.
It just bottoms out.
Yeah. You can no longer rely on a slick user interface or a massive code base as your primary defensive moat.
Which is wild because we spent years romanticizing elegant code, you know? So if the code is just cheap wallpaper, where is the actual fortress? Looking at financial technology, it seems the competitive advantage is hiding in the filing cabinets. It is the boring, clunky compliance stuff everyone usually hates.
Look at the primary moats in fintech. They aren't the app interfaces or the payment gateways.
Because anyone can build those now.
Exactly. They are regulatory permissions, credit data, and risk-bearing capacity. The competitive advantage has shifted entirely to the entities that actually control the movement of the money and possess proprietary risk models.
So what does risk-bearing capacity actually mean mechanically for a fintech?
Well, it means having the actual balance sheet to absorb defaults. Like, artificial intelligence can predict who will default with much greater accuracy, sure.
Right, it can crunch the numbers.
But when someone actually fails to pay, the AI doesn't cover the loss. The company's capital reserves do. So the tech can optimize those risk models and make them run faster, but it absolutely cannot replace the underlying regulatory license.
Or the historical underwriting data.
Spot on.
So a machine can write 1,000 lines of code in seconds, but it cannot instantly acquire a banking license or magically generate 5 years of consumer credit repayment history.
Exactly. You have to shift your focus away from the technology itself and point it towards the unautomatable real-world friction that your business solves. Those real-world barriers, those are your new moats.
That makes perfect sense in theory, but, I mean, execution speed is just getting absurd. We have tools like Figure that help you spot user experience blind spots before a single line of code is even written.
Which is huge because it eliminates weeks of costly iteration and arguments between product managers and designers.
Yeah, you aren't waiting for a full prototype to realize the user flow is completely broken.
Right.
And then you have tools like Fish Audio providing incredibly expressive text-to-speech and voice cloning right out of the box. Or Not, which is just brilliant.
Oh, Not is fascinating.
It turns literally any website site into a callable application programming interface.
Yeah.
You don't need a team of engineers to build these fragile web scrapers that break every single time a site updates its CSS. You just point not at a URL, and suddenly your app can read its data or trigger actions on it programmatically. The execution is trivial.
It is. But here is the danger of that speed, right?
Yeah.
Because the old software moats are gone. Companies are panicking. They look around, they see the cheap wallpaper, and they desperately cling to the one thing that feels real and measurable to them.
Which is?
They cling to immediate revenue.
Wait, that sounds completely insane. If I walk into a board meeting and tell my investors, hey guys, we're ignoring revenue, I'm getting fired on the spot. How do you actually defend that transition? We are taught that revenue is the ultimate validation of a business.
I know. It feels right intuitively.
Huh.
But revenue addiction actually kills companies during a fundamental market transition like this one. If revenue is your North Star metric right now, your company is destined to fail.
Really? Destined to fail?
Absolutely. Because a revenue-addicted company will systematically kill every single initiative that doesn't move the financial number immediately.
Okay, so optimizing a startup entirely for revenue is like driving a car while staring exclusively at the fuel gauge instead of the road. I mean, you might know exactly how much petrol you have, but you're going to crash straight into a tree.
That is a highly accurate way to visualize it, yeah. During an artificial intelligence transition, companies must make big product bets. You need the freedom to experiment.
Right.
Look at a company like Lovable. They recognize this exact trap and actually swap their North Star metric entirely. Instead of revenue, they optimize for daily active apps.
Okay, unpack the mechanics of that for me. How does a metric like that actually change day-to-day engineering behavior? Because it sounds a bit fluffy.
Well, they built a qualitative metric called a Lovable score. It combines their net promoter score, their product market fit score, their effort score, and basic customer satisfaction.
All mashed together.
Yeah. And by making that the target, the engineering team stops asking, how do we force an upgrade prompt here?
Right, which ruins the experience.
Exactly. And they start asking, how do we reduce the friction for the user to launch their app?
But how do you calculate an effort score on a daily basis without just annoying the user with constant pop-up surveys? I hate those things.
You measure telemetry. Effort score isn't just asking, hey, was this easy? It is tracking how many clicks it took a user to deploy their app. Or, how many times they hit the undo button in frustration.
Oh, wow. So you are tracking the actual struggle.
Exactly. You combine passive telemetry with strategic, infrequent qualitative surveys to build that Lovable score.
So they are measuring the actual utility and joy the product creates.
Right. And revenue still matters, obviously, but it is framed correctly as the output of the system, not the thing you optimize for up front. Maximize the Lovable score, and revenue follows as a natural consequence. Maximize only for revenue, and you just extract value until the customers leave.
That is a massive shift in mindset. But hang on, let's play this out. If teams are swapping their metrics to focus on user joy, and they have all these incredible AI tools making coding trivial, they must be shipping incredible things constantly, right? Like the output must be staggering. If I have 10 engineers using AI to code 10 times faster, surely my company is shipping 10 times more product. How is that a bad thing?
You would logically think so. But internally, it is actually absolute chaos. We have to separate the individual from the organization here.
Okay, how so?
Productive individuals don't automatically make productive firms.
Uh.
Individual AI gains often create organizational chaos, and what we're now calling slop, rather than actual firm-level value.
Stop. I love that we're using the word slop for corporate output. It is just a giant bucket of digital gruel being poured onto the manager's desk, which, yeah, is exactly as terrifying as it sounds.
It is a harsh visual,
Yeah.
but it's highly accurate. When everyone can generate massive amounts of code, text, and features instantly, the friction points move. They move to integration, quality control, and strategic alignment.
Right. Someone has to actually stitch all that slop together.
Exactly. And this actually mirrors a long historical lag in productivity we saw during the electrification of factories.
Oh, right. When they ripped out the central steam engines. How did that workflow lag actually happen?
Well, during the steam era, factories were built vertically around one massive steam engine with a central drive shaft. Belts connected every single machine to that one shaft.
Pretty rigid setup.
Very. Then, when electric motors arrived, you could put a small motor on every individual workbench. But factory owners just swapped the steam engine for a giant electric motor, and kept the bolts.
No way.
Yeah, productivity stagnated for decades.
Because they didn't redesign the workflow, they just swapped the power source and expected a miracle.
Exactly. To get the productivity boom, they had to build single-story factories with modular, flexible assembly lines. Right now, managers are just strapping artificial intelligence onto old Steam-era workflows. We are in that exact lag period right now with AI.
Okay, so what does a manager even do in this environment? When you say a manager needs to build the right pipes for this AI slop, what does that actually look like mechanically? Are we talking about setting up automated QA testing or fundamentally changing how code commits work?
It is all of the above. Managers must be builders in this environment.
You can't just sit back.
No, not building is a massive waste of time. You cannot manage a team using AI if you don't fundamentally understand the tools yourself. Building the pipes means redefining the architecture so that AI-generated code can be automatically tested, isolated, and reviewed without requiring a human to read every single line.
So the ability to build those systems will differentiate the teams that win from the teams that simply drown in their own output slop. The gap between good management and bad management is widening rapidly.
Absolutely.
The bad manager is just holding a clipboard while the factory floods with half-finished code.
Precisely. And this internal rewiring is happening while the external environment is also turning completely upside down.
Because you still have to sell the stuff.
Right. Because once you finally build something valuable and filter out the slop, you have to actually reach the buyer.
Yeah.
And that external market is entirely saturated.
Which requires a complete rethink of customer discovery. So sitting down with a prospect and asking, hey, what is your biggest pain point? Is that completely dead?
It is entirely dead.
Thank goodness. I hate that question.
Me too. But the obvious pain points are already being targeted by thousands of automated tools. Buyers are fatigued. Furthermore, AI has commoditized cold outreach. You can generate infinitely personalized emails at zero marginal cost.
Yeah.
Therefore, outbound alone will not cut it anymore. It is just a massive wall of automated text.
It is incredibly frustrating as a consumer, honestly. My inbox is just a war zone of AI bots pitching other AI bots. We have basically automated the ability to annoy each other at scale.
Which is why reaching the customer now requires a multi-channel flywheel. It has to combine content, community, and retargeting. You have to earn the right to be in their inbox long before you ask for anything.
Walk me through Cold IQ's multi-channel flywheel. I know they've been doing this well. What does the actual sequence look like before that first message is even sent?
So Cold IQ nearly doubled their revenue by using content to prime their prospects before ever reaching out. They don't just send a cold email.
Right.
They map out a content funnel where a prospect sees an insightful, highly technical post on a platform like LinkedIn. And they don't gate it behind a form either.
They just give it away.
Exactly. They track who engages with that content, then retarget them with a more specific case study video. Then they invite them to a community event.
So by the time they make direct contact, the prospect already trusts their expertise. They aren't a stranger anymore.
Exactly. The cold outreach only happens after the prospect has actively consumed multiple pieces of value. They saw conversion rates 3 times higher than traditional cold contacts. Building that organic distribution early gives you a massive lead over competitors who are still relying on saturated outbound channels.
Because organic trust cannot be easily automated, so who else is nailing this organic approach?
PostHog is a phenomenal example. They reach tens of millions in annual recurring revenue and a massive valuation with 0 outbound sales calls ever.
0. You were telling me a company built a massive valuation without a single sales rep picking up a phone to chase a lead.
Never. They rely entirely on a product-led motion. They use usage-based pricing and a really generous free tier.
So walk me through how that actually spreads internally. Does one engineer just sort of sneak it into the tech stack?
Exactly. One single engineer installs it for a side project, realizes how good it is, and starts using it for a minor feature at work.
Oh, right.
It spreads internally within their company, very much like how Figma spread through design teams. It bypasses the procurement friction entirely. And their marketing engine reflects this philosophy too. They have a massive email updates list. But the secret is they never actually mention PostHog in it.
Wait, they have a massive marketing list and they do not pitch their own product? That sounds like marketing heresy.
It is pure value delivery. The emails just teach engineers how to build better products, full stop. They establish total authority and trust. So when the engineer eventually needs an analytics tool, PostHog is the only logical choice.
That is brilliant. Okay, so if cold email is dead for selling software, what happens when a founder needs to hire a lead designer? Like, does the same rule apply for recruiting top-tier people?
Absolutely. For sourcing top talent, especially roles requiring high taste-like designers, founders must go to where they naturally congregate. For many, that is the X platform.
Right.
But you don't just blast them with job offers. You look for designers who follow specific tools and communities that signal high taste. The best, most self-aware designers move quietly through trusted networks.
They aren't on the job boards.
Exactly. They rarely apply through a standard corporate portal. Founders must be plugged into those networks long before they actually need to hire anyone.
All right, so let's pull all this together. We've got commoditized code, we have abandoned revenue addiction, we are building pipes for the slop, and we are running organic marketing flywheels. When a founder actually gets in the room with an investor or a buyer, what is the actual pitch?
The first rule is understanding what you are not. Being a system of record will not save a business anymore. Yeah, spend is going to flow around businesses that don't own the AI layer on top of their platforms. They might get their annual renewals because, migrating data is annoying, but they will see absolutely zero growth.
Explain the decline of the system of record for me. Why won't my central database save me?
Historically, tools like CRMs won by being the single source of truth. But now AI agents can pull data from 50 different fragmented sources instantly.
Right, they just grab what they need.
Exactly. The value shifts from where does the data live to what autonomous action can we take based on this data. If your software just stores data but doesn't act on it, an AI agent will simply bypass your interface, extract what it needs, and do the work elsewhere.
Because the value is no longer in just storing the static data, the value is in the autonomous action taken upon that data.
Spot on. And this leads to the most crucial distinction founders need to make right now, is the difference between selling skills and selling outcomes. Agent skills are the recipe, but vertical agents are the cake.
Oh, I love that. Right, businesses don't want the raw ingredients. They want the vertical agent that executes the whole workflow.
Exactly. Selling discrete AI skills is exactly like selling the recipe. You are giving the customer a list of capabilities and making them do the hard work of figuring out how to bake it into a functional solution.
And nobody wants to buy a bag of flour and raw eggs when they're hungry for dessert.
Precisely. Businesses don't want to assemble recipes. They want to be in the cake business. They want the agent that solves the entire end-to-end problem without them having to manage the intermediate steps.
But how does that translate into actual business strategy? It feels like there are so many conflicting directions to pull a company.
Well, this is where strategy actually gets tested. Real strategic choices mean choosing between two genuinely good options. If the opposite of your strategy sounds stupid, no actual decision has been made.
So claiming your strategy is, quote, customer first is completely meaningless because nobody in their right mind picks customer last.
Exactly. A real strategy is choosing between being an all-in-one platform versus being an infinitely extensible platform. Both are valid, highly successful business models, but they require entirely different product architectures and go-to-market motions.
Because if you choose all-in-one, you are on the hook for building every single feature your customers ever ask for, forever.
Yes, and if you choose infinitely extensible, you risk your user experience turning into a fragmented patchwork quilt of third-party integrations. You have to pick your pain.
Fair enough.
Ben Horowitz advises that despite all this upheaval, the fundamental rules of pitching remain exactly the same. Strategy is still about articulating a crystal clear why. Product management is still fundamentally about shipping the right product at the right time.
It is reassuring, honestly. The tools have changed, the speed has increased, but human psychology and market mechanics still anchor the whole operation. A founder with a clear vision, a deep understanding of their true, real-world moats, and a fully baked cake to sell will always find traction.
The context has shifted wildly, but the best pitch is still the one you actually believe.
So take a hard look at your own projects and ask yourself a simple question. Are you selling your customers a recipe, or are you serving them a fully baked cake? If you enjoyed looking under the hood with us on Vocal Technologists, keep questioning those default assumptions. Stay curious, mate.
Spoken Tech for your ears.